Welcome, everyone, to this gathering of a fresh look at life and our topic today. We're going to be taking a fresh look at conflict. Oh my goodness. Did anybody look up what conflict means, dictionary definition, before this? I thought to and then forgot. So I'll tell you how I have made up conflict, and you can tell me if that's resonant for you as well. This topic was my idea, my bright idea, because I really want to see something new about conflict. And it's not that I've seen nothing about it. I just know that it still looks really real to me sometimes. I still get drawn into arguments that look like a problem. And I don't think it has to be that way. In fact, I know that it doesn't. And so this is where I turn to life and I say, oh, show me. What have I not yet seen? That might be really cool to see. So, what I do know about conflict is that it doesn't really exist. And I say that because the way I'm talking about conflict is a problem. I make up conflict as something that shouldn't be happening, that has to be resolved, that needs to change. Because if I don't think of something as a conflict, if I don't label it as a conflict, can it exist as a conflict? I think the first time I had a glimpse of that was a few years ago when I read The Relationship Handbook by George and Linda Pransky. And there was a chapter in there that I can't even remember what it said, but I remember what I saw. And I was like, oh my God, conflict is thought. It doesn't exist unless I think it up as a conflict. Now, this doesn't mean that there aren't disagreements and differences of opinion and divorce agreements to be signed and contracts to be negotiated and political disagreements. Of course, there are challenges. There are differences that have practical applications in our lives, but they're not conflicts, not the way I make them up. And what I've been seeing about conflicts in my life is that the minute I stop fighting, the conflict disappears. Even if that conflict is just in my mind, the minute I stop fighting whatever I'm making up that I think should be different, it isn't a conflict anymore. And I especially see this with people, because that's where I'm really clear. I don't want to fight. I don't want to argue. I don't want to create conflict with someone that I love. And I noticed that if I defend myself, I'm fighting. Because you don't have to defend yourself unless you're being attacked or you think you're being attacked, right? So as soon as you know about this too, Rags? He's like, I know something about conflict. So when I put down my weapons, the ones that I'm waging up here in my head, the battle is over. If I don't fight back, there's nothing to fight. There's no fight happening. And I see that it just like it takes the air out of everything. So that's kind of my starting point. Tom, you're right. He just put, in case somebody's watching the replay, Tom just said puppy knows something about resolving conflict. And he does, right? So I just heard Judy Sedgman a couple days ago in a webinar presentation point out how we shift our attention from thought to thought without even noticing it, right? So conflict, conflict. I have a conflict. I need to fix this. I need to resolve this conflict, right? And then ooh, conflict is gone. You're right, Tom. And then I can go right back to conflict, conflict, conflict. But the puppy, and it doesn't exist. And that's how I know it's thought. Not the physical problem in the world, but the conflict I made up in my head. It has to be because it goes away as soon as I stop thinking it. My starting point. So I'm going to toss the ball to whomever wants to take it. It could be anyone.
Well, some thoughts occurred to me as you were talking. Um, it's funny, when you talked about the conflict in my head, I was going, oh my God, the number of arguments I've had in my head with someone who's not even present. Now, now that's a very clear example of a conflict that only exists in thought. Um, so that was one thing that struck me. Uh, and hmm, maybe that's all I've got for now. I'm recovering from some physical stuff in my body. My body's been in conflict with health, and um, now it's resolving that. But maybe my mind is not as clear as usual. I'll pass it to someone else. Who's catching? Shh.
I'll go. Um, this is what I thought of. And I did look up conflict when you started. It's a disagreement or struggle, according to the Google Dictionary, often involving opposing ideas, interests, or actions that can occur between individuals, groups, or even within oneself. And what it made me think of, because I have this thought and I make notes on it all the time, is I see it I see it differently. I could be in an event with three friends and something comes up and we'll all see it differently. It'll all affect us differently. And so some a lot, some not much. And so with conflict, it's it's not it's as big as we want it to be. I just see it differently than what maybe my neighbor, and it doesn't mean that they're right or wrong. It just means that for whatever it is, we both see the same thing differently, and you can pursue it if it's worth it, and sometimes it might be. Yeah, I don't know. So that's my thought.
Well, and just to add on to what Bernie said, and I noticed a couple of years ago that when I'm in what I would call conflict with another person, 95% or more of the suffering around it is happening when I'm not even with that person. When I'm thinking about it, I'm out for a walk on a beautiful day and I'm having an imaginary argument. Everyone's probably had that experience. And then it kind of dawned on me. It's like, oh, yeah, this isn't happening right now. And it would kind of die down. And then sometimes 30 seconds later, I find myself all of a sudden back in the argument again, and then that dies down. And so I've just noticed by understanding that it's not happening in the present moment has really kind of lessened the suffering that I have around what I would call conflict. And so that's been really liberating. And I mean, even recently, it's still a phenomenon that seems to play out. even though I'm onto it somewhat. Isn't that interesting? Like you're sort of onto it, but it can keep happening. And even that is something to not make a big deal out of. It's like, oh well, I was just in this imaginary argument. Now I'm enjoying the trees. Like Steph was saying about thought will change really fast, and then I'm back in this. All of a sudden, I'm back in this argument. So I think that's really helpful. The most helpful thing to see around it.
There's something that's coming up for me now that when I started noticing that I was fighting, that I was very clearly creating a conflict in my mind and having this fight in my head, and not only in my head, that it was coming out of my mouth. That's where it was really bothering me. I'm like, oh, it's coming out of my mouth now. This is not what I want to do. And I know this about people. I know this about myself. We interesting, fascinating, beautiful humans that we are, that we do things because they make sense to us in the moment. I was like, okay, so if I'm arguing here, if I'm stirring up a conflict, if I'm feeding it, it must look like I need to do that. What's going on? Oh, I think I need to defend myself because in some way I'm not safe. If I don't defend myself, something bad happens to me. And for me, as I was reflecting on it, it looked like I lose my agency. I lose my power. And if that were true, that not fighting meant I lost my power and I gave up and I would be subject to the whims of somebody else, then it would really make sense for me to keep fighting. And so when I saw that, I kind of followed the thoughts all the way through and I was like, oh, is it true? Is it true that I'm powerless or hurt here? And I didn't want to let it go. I could feel it, that I didn't want to let it go. And I let myself feel that, not wanting to let it go. I don't want to stop fighting. I don't want to let this go. And then I saw something on the other side of that. I saw that I put it down and I have peace again immediately. Oh, I want that more than I want to be right. That was cool.
I was thinking that conflict. It's good to see everybody, by the way. It's 5:15 in the morning here, so it's very early, but it's nice to be here. Conflict is a misunderstanding. It all goes back to misunderstanding who we are and the principles, because what I see, what you describe so beautifully, is that something touches us and our thinking machine goes, whoa, 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 whoa. And our level of consciousness goes down. We feel lost, we feel confused, we feel like, what is going on here? Me. Argue. I just, when you say loss of agency, I was like, yeah, that happened to me not that long ago. Something was saying, keep your mouth shut. And I was going, rah, 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 rah. But it wasn't like before, it was different. But just, it was like I was taken away with the river. And of course, when you have this time and the space to settle down, and the all the stuff that God produced when something gets stuck in us, like a breakup or a business opportunity or whatever it is. When all of that settles, you realize that it's not as bad as I was making it out to be in the moment. And that's like, oh, okay. Well, now I suppose it's time to make amends, you know, and to just learn from the, hey, baby, oh, so that's my cat, and to learn from the experience. Because that used to happen all the time to me. I was living in a defensive mode constantly because I was in that level of consciousness where there is a me that I need to defend. But when you go up in the level of consciousness and you're like, oh, okay, we're all spiritual beings that think and react to what they think. So nothing is personal anymore. Separate realities means nothing is personal. It's just about me and my thoughts. And me and my thoughts talk to you, and the same happen the other direction. And thoughts conflict. Souls cannot conflict. Souls do not conflict. Thinking does. Personal mind does. So it's like, oh, okay, God, I need a massive sticky note somewhere that reminds me of this. Maybe a tattoo or something. Because it's easy to forget that. And I think that's one of the things that I saw in a conversation with Deacon Vettinger. And he was quoting Judy. And Judy was quoting Sid. And it essentially says you have to be okay with knowing that your level of consciousness is going to go up and down. I was like, okay. Oh, interesting. So that makes it very neutral to know that anyone's level of consciousness can be going up and down in any moment. So if you see someone that comes to you like, wah, 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 and you are kind of in a good level of consciousness, you will see a person that is in pain. So the defensiveness doesn't come up. So we all have that inside, you know, we all have a high level of consciousness and we all have a very low one. I think in our community, we have a pretty good, you know, average of good feeling in our level of consciousness. And, but out in the world, it can be very different. So that's what's coming to me about conflict. Sorry, my cat keeps talking to me. Anyway, yeah. That's, and I like your t-shirt, Bernie. What does it say, lovers? Lovers gonna love. That's awesome. That's really cool. Thank you.
I believe this t-shirt was made in response to the quote, haters gonna hate, which is focusing on something that sounds somewhat like conflict.
Yeah.
You know, Stephanie, something you said that sparked something was something I've been exploring a little bit, which is, would I rather be right? Or would I rather be happy? Would I rather have peace of mind? No, would I rather be right? Would I rather argue my case, or would I rather have peace of mind? And sometimes I've noticed when I'm caught up in being right, and I notice that, oh, this isn't what I really want. My ego might want it in this moment, but it's not what my deeper self really wants. And so even in the midst of conflict, I had times when I have that remembrance, that noticing. I catch myself caught up in my thinking, and I've literally, I can think of a time when an argument, a conflict has just paused there, and I'm back to my peace. It's like, it's amazing how quickly it can just disappear once I see I'm taking myself away from my peace, from my happiness by needing to be right. And I don't need to be right. That's a lie. That's what occurred to me.
You know, Barney, I love that because for me, that's what my lower level of consciousness thinks. So that's how I know. Oh, I'm at this level. Okay, interesting. I love how magic it can be. It also can linger, you know. Sometimes it just, speaking to what Tom was saying, my head has been so busy with the particular story, you know, what could have been, replaying stuff, are having full-on conversations with someone in your head. Goodness, it's no fun. But there's something less fun, which is to fight with that. So, you know, as you both were saying, is, oh, one moment you're thinking about something, then next moment you're not. So you can notice when you're not. You feel different. But the thing about it, and the thing about the level of consciousness is that where we direct our attention to that type of thoughts, I need to be right, you know, this person this person that, blah, blah, blah. It's downhill from that. But the moment that you notice that you're you rather be happy. It's like your attention shifted to something that is spacious. So now you have space. So it's very nice to experience that. Yeah.
I could say just ditto to a lot of that, but there's something that I heard it when Stephanie was talking about being right, and then Bernie brought it up again. And it's kind of curious because it's like, oh, right. So it's not even just about being right, it's about having it be acknowledged by another person that you were right. Because when you can, you know, letting things drop, seeing sort of letting I had looked up the description too. I had a different one come up about to come into collision or disagreement. And originally I had thought it's like a collision of thoughts, really. And then from there, wherever it goes. But this whole thing about what's kind of caught me is this whole idea about being right. And it's like, there's something more entangled in there, because just dropping a conversation with another to not push the right, it can still be battling on, like, well, I know I'm right. So there can still be this internal conversation going on in your head. So it's like there's like multi steps. So it's like, yes, recognizing that we're not in agreement and it doesn't matter, but actually really letting it drop. So we might have stopped the conversation, but there might still be something going on. So I was just seeing, I don't know why it caught me, but I just see this just like more invitation for where does it go from there? What can be even better? And maybe because I've seen that, ooh, that happens with me. And I think, see, I let it go. I didn't go there. But in my mind, I'm still like, I was right. I know he's wrong. And that is conflict. And that is conflict. And it may not seem like it because life is carrying on, but it's conflict in the body. It's still there. It still has a presence. You know, I love the idea that, well, actually, I don't really love this idea, but I've accepted this idea that there's no thought that ever disappears. Once it's thought, it's thunk. It has a presence somewhere. Energy doesn't go away. So it's like, that is actually helpful and kind of curious to know. So, yeah, that's what came to mind.
The other thing I was reflecting on with conflict is like what is it that gives it its energy? You know, what makes it a conflict? And for me, it seems to have something to do, like when it's with another person, that if they don't see things my way, or if they don't agree to do something, then it's going to hurt me in some way. Because if I wasn't being hurt by it, it probably wouldn't feel like a conflict, or wouldn't feel like much of a conflict. Like if you just had a different way of seeing something, you know, it might not feel great, but it's not going to feel super bad in my experience. But if what the other person thinks and does, if it feels like there's something at stake, that's when it feels like a conflict that feels bad. So again, I think that when I realized that, like the idea that something is at stake, or the idea that what the other person does or doesn't do has the power to hurt me, when that gets a little questionable, you know, that can lighten the feeling of conflict, or it may disappear. It may not be a conflict anymore. Um, and like even when it involves something like money, or something like logistical in your life, like something about where you're living, or how your environment is, even though, you know, that other person may truly have some say or the power to have things be a certain way, it doesn't necessarily mean that that has the power to hurt you in the way you're thinking about it in the moment. And just recognizing that um feels a little liberating and nice. So yeah, so just questioning whether what's really fueling the suffering of the conflict is also not as solid as it might appear.
It's funny you say that, Tom, because when you were sharing, I saw this little mini movie of, you know, getting a letter that says, "Oh, your rent is gonna go up $10," and my brain got saying, "I'm gonna die," you know, like boom, boom, just feeling kind of like same, you know, getting a parking ticket. Oh, I'm gonna die, going from 0 to 100 in a minute, creating all that physiology with it of survival, and then you know we go. So I I recognize that in myself for a while now. So it's usually the time to settle down. Um, yeah. The other thing I was gonna say is, you know how Bernie's T-shirt was inspired by the saying "haters gonna hate," right? Which puts focus on the hate. And I love how, you know, love is gonna love puts focus on the love. So the same thing when we're in conflict. You know, if we put focus on the conflict, we are gonna feed it, like Tom was pointing. And then it's like, oh, we can put the focus on peace, or the opposite of conflict, if we want to be literal. And I feel that that's a different level of consciousness. So when we put focus on the conflict, we are at a level of consciousness. And when we put focus on the peace, it shifts, the level shifts upwards. So it feels a bit mechanical the way that I'm saying it. Of course, we are living, breathing psychological being. So it may not be like flipping a switch, but something changes when I open up to looking away from the conflict towards the peace or the happiness or the space, or the wisdom. So I suppose life gives us a lot of opportunity to practice this because at any given moment our stuff can be, poked, and we'll be like, okay, how am I gonna look at this? From the personal, or from the um, higher perspective. Both are within my capabilities, every human being. And we can keep expanding on that. So that's what, the idea that a tiny little change in our lives means survival is at stake is how I feel my reactions have been working me. And my nervous system, gets all like fight or flight or whatever, or freeze or whatever it is. And all it is like, oh, I got dysregulated for a little bit. Okay, just relax. So that's what it was coming to me. And it also, sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot, but it also forces us to have a fresh look at peace.
What you said earlier, Anna, has been like, I really heard it. I really heard something in it when you said souls don't conflict.
That
Souls,
was to me too, by the way.
souls cannot be in conflict.
Mm.
And I thought, oh, that's so true. And it just brought me to this beautiful place because there never was a conflict between us. Not really. There never will be, and there never was. And sure, I might feel that way, but it's not true. That's glorious.
Yeah, and thank you for saying it back because I barely hear it when I say it. So now you're saying it and I'm having a reaction because it's true. And I needed to hear that. So thank you.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
I had a vision of an uncontrolled intersection. And it's really what we make about conflict. What stories we've been telling ourselves about it, what events, what experiences we've had in our life that tell us what conflict is for us. And if we really dove into it, I think it would be maybe there would be nuances that would be specific to each of us. But I was thinking about this uncontrolled intersection and this idea of collision of thoughts, because what's happening is there is this collision of vehicles. They're coming towards each other. And there's like rules of the road, right? To avoid crashing and to yield, give way, stop, the one on the right. And it can depend on our experiences of life too, because there might be some who they never get going, like the person who you're behind in a merge lane and they're almost coming to a stop instead of merging because they're so like, oh, I'll let you go, I'll let you go. So there's this, I see this, there's just so much more involved and yet not. That can be there. And when we are like, when we've had conversations and things where it's like, right, we're coming to the uncontrolled intersection, which really that's what a conversation is. It's an uncontrolled intersection of voice and thoughts and opinions. And yeah, it really is all about where we're coming from to this conversation, this collision. Because sometimes collisions are wonderful. The most amazing things come out of it, like that, what comes out of calls like these. It's like a collision of thoughts and ideas and visions and things, and it's like, whoa, and we all go away with like little bits and pieces that we didn't have on us, colored paint and stuff from rubbing up against somebody else's. It's like, so conflict can be like really wonderful and impactful and transformative. Yeah, anyway, came to mind.
It can also create a space for more depth, because usually the things that we're mad about are not the things that we're mad about. so, okay. So, we can go at it like rah, 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 rah. That's a level of consciousness. Or we can go at it from a more soulful perspective. And I think that's what they call it, to have a soul to soul, like have a soul to soul conversation. It's an interesting term that I've used many times, but I never really, saw it for what it was pointing to, which is a different pace, different listening. I mean, how much of conflict, like when you're in a low level of consciousness, I'm not listening. My own mind is shouting at me. How can I listen to anyone else? My own mind is saying, he's not respecting you. And the person could be doing X, Y, or Z, and I will still feel disrespected because of my own experiences created in my thinking. So anyway, I appreciate that that option to kind of take a step back and look at it from that soulful perspective. When you say intersection, I just imagine these two roads and lots of cars. And there is no traffic light and there is no, no policeman guiding the traffic. It's just, and then I thought, well, each driver is a soul. So I thought, okay, well, somehow focusing on that, it creates a more peaceful experience for myself, which is all I can hope for. So thank you.
I decided to ask OpenAI, the difference between seeing it differently and conflict. And I love what I saw there, and have a better understanding of why I like the terms. I see it differently over conflict, and I'll read it to you. And it says, this is a really good question. And yeah, there is a difference. They can overlap. Seeing it differently, this is just a difference in perspective or opinion. It doesn't necessarily carry tension, and both sides can still feel heard, respected, and open to discussion. As in, I think we should take the scenic route, or I prefer the faster highway. Here, it's a difference, but not necessarily a conflict, unless it, and this is the keywords, unless it escalates to an emotional charge behind it. And so then conflict, this usually involves emotional tension, miscommunication, or a sense that one's needs, values, or identity are being threatened or dismissed. So a simple difference might become a conflict. One person feels ignored or invalidated. The tone gets harsh or defensive. There's a history or a buildup. People are pushing for their way rather than trying to understand. So their quick way to think about it. Difference is neutral. Conflict is different, plus emotional heat or resistance. And for me, it occurred to me that that's my easy way out, is just, oh, I just see it differently because I do. And instead of going down the emotional road of conflict, and not that I don't ever have that feeling, because I do, but it helped me to understand, oh, you take the softer road. That's me.
I keep feeling like I want to call on you, Kate, because I feel like I'm thinking of you as Byron Kate. And there's so much that she speaks to about conflict and being at war with reality. So I don't know. You don't have to speak to that, but that's something that I keep thinking, Kate.
You know, conflict has been one of my greatest teachers. And with that being said, I'm not sure how much I've seen about it. Because it's one of those things in my life where it really doesn't look like I'm dealing with me. And that's the only thing that's ever happening in life at all, ever, is that I'm dealing with me. I'm hearing me, I'm seeing me, I'm experiencing my thought about it. But in conflict, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like I'm dealing with this person in front of me and we're in conflict. And that's what it looks like. And that's what it feels like still. So it's one of my greatest teachers to see that I'm only ever really dealing with me. And Byron Katie has been incredible for me because she sees it in such a clear way that there's nowhere I can't meet the person in front of me. That if they're yelling at me or accusing me of something, there's nowhere I can't meet them. But it doesn't always feel that way. You know, conflict inherently, when we think about it, is a story of separation. We just can't be. And so if it feels that way, I'm not sitting in truth. And that's when, you know, like when Anna, when you said that souls are never, that's true. That's truer than anything that I've ever heard about conflict. And one other thing too about conflict is, and I think Steph, you and I have had this conversation before, that, you know, our thinking mind, our personal mind it's constantly trying to show us the shit we've picked up along the way that isn't true. And the way that you and I talked about it was that it's always showing its hand, like in poker. Like it has the worst poker face. It's always showing us what we picked up because it's so loud, and especially in conflict. Like it's the best way for me to see, because I have so many strong and powerful stories about what's okay. And conflict has never felt okay with me. Like, oh, that I hate conflict. I don't like this feeling. I'm not safe in this space. I don't like it inside myself. I don't like it with other people. I'm not okay in conflict. And they're so powerful, and they show up in situations with other people. But it's showing me, it's giving me the gift of letting me see what I've got going on. What's not true, but feels true. But I think there's a space, whether we see things differently, which we always do, or we're in a conflict and it feels really powerful. You know, there's a space where we can see that we're never separate. There is no separation. Maybe it's a direction to look in, even if I can't see it or experience it in the middle of conflict. The fact that it's possible is a direction for me to be in, to look in, to feel my way towards. You know, because truth is always calling. So I know that it's calling me even then, even in conflict.
I love that idea, Kate, that conflict is truth calling me. Uh, especially in conflict, especially when I'm hurting, is calling me to just to wake up. It's like when you reach the apex of a nightmare, you know, and then you're like, oh, what's a nightmare? So you can go into conflict, and at some point you're like, oh, I'm thinking a lot. Okay, settle down. Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Same.
Didn't think it was okay to feel anger or to express it, much less to express it. It wasn't even okay to feel it. It wasn't okay to be around it. And that seems to come up a lot when we create this thing called conflict, right? So I really resonate with that. Like, conflict is not okay. Not okay. I'm not okay with it. I'm not okay in it. You're not okay to be in it. And it wasn't until fairly recently that I realized that I can feel explosive anger and express it. And then it goes. And I'm okay. And not only am I okay, but sometimes there's not even anything that needs addressing afterward, which I also didn't know. I used to think that, like, oh, if that kind of stuff happens, you have to like say apologies. And I'm not saying that I don't or wouldn't do that, but it's not necessary. When it's gone, it's gone. And if I know to say or do something to make it right, I can, but it's not necessary. It doesn't exist once it's gone. That was really interesting what you said, Michaela, about that a thought doesn't. And I think, to me, what I heard in that it points to is that the power of thought is not outside of us. It is only inside of us. So thought is neutral. The thought, whatever it is, this energy is completely neutral. And it is me who gives it a charge, who decides this is positive or negative, pleasurable or unpleasurable. So it can go anywhere and do anything and have an infinite number of meanings depending upon who picks it up, who plays with it. What? That's crazy. And I don't know if that's exactly true, by the way. It's just sort of, I'm running with what you said and what's sparking in me, but it's doing something interesting. It makes it less thingy for me, less fixed. Is there anything else that's being sparked to share or a question to ask, perhaps, before we end our time together today?
Hi, I see Kate saying hello. I'd like to say something. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Noor.
Um, hmm. So where I'm at with conflict right now is I've had like kind of an anxious relationship with unresolved conflict, like probably like a lot of people. And I recently had an experience with my sister where there was a conflict and it didn't go well, and I really wanted for it to be like repaired, and just wasn't the right time or place for it. And I had expressed to her that I like don't really want to work through things electronically and reserve it for in person. And at first I was finding myself like really uncomfortable with what was unresolved. And something shifted, and I think I did some work around it internally, but I was like okay with this unresolved open loop, and I didn't feel anxious about it. And that's the space I'm still in around it. Like her and I haven't worked through the kinks, and I intend to say something to her about it, but when we're in person together. But that felt really good to me. I'm not even sure in this moment what to say is like the reason for it, but I guess what's happening for me right now with conflict is just I'm having an experience, hopefully it will continue in other situations where I guess I experienced myself as okay and not having that anxiety I'm used to while something is unresolved with someone else. And I guess I'm celebrating that, and that feels new to me. Because I have such a strong value for harmony and resolution, and like, but maybe that's because I haven't trusted that I could be okay without like the other person um doing or saying something. And so I think this makes sense, right? Can you give me a nod if this makes sense, what I'm saying? I probably could articulate it better. I also really want to thank Bernie here because Bernie has been a great teacher to me. I want to acknowledge you, Bernie, and being self-responsible. For those of you who don't know, Bernie and I were in a relationship for almost 5 years, and Bernie would often tell me, I don't think you'll mind, but Bernie would often be like, he would help me see that my trigger was not just about the presenting situation, but based on stuff from the past. And I feel like something that I do now, I am integrating is like just being more with, if I'm triggered, like I don't have to, like I can just be with it. I can be with it and know that it's not fully about what's immediate. It's not fully about that. And what's my part in things? And I feel a lot more willing to be humble and acknowledge my part in things. So I'm celebrating that. I guess that takes a kind of softening of the ego, but it doesn't feel hard to me. It doesn't feel hard to me to be like, yes, this is my part in things. I acknowledge it. And let's keep it moving.
Mm.
I see Bernie smiling. Thank you, Bernie, for your contribution. Bernie's been our teacher to me in self-responsibility, for better or worse.
That is so gorgeous, Noor. Really. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks for hearing.
And we celebrate. I want to celebrate all of us, Noor for what you shared and what you're seeing, but all of us for taking a fresh look at something that I'll speak for myself. I spent a really long time trying to avoid. It's awesome.
Maybe that's our topic for next time. Conflict avoidance.
I was going to suggest the fresh look at peace.
There you go.
I like it.
We have ideas.
We all do. But I
Right.
love your dog, Stephanie. Is she or he? Gorgeous.
This is Rags. He's a he, and he's mine for a couple weeks, but you know,
Rags.
they're buds.
He's gorgeous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. All right, my loves. Great to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, nice.